Welcome back, students. As we get later in the semester, one of the things that I think is important that we do is to review some of the things that we did earlier in the semester. That way we keep them in your mind, keep you sharp on those things as you head off to future math classes. So let's go back over some of the things that we learned about fractions. We'll start with multiplying, and you know that when we multiply fractions, we like to reduce first. Let's multiply these fractions together. But before we do, look for things that reduce. I'm noticing the 4 and the 8. Those are both divisible by 4. We'll divide by 4 and divide by 4. Then you multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. 2 times 5 is 10. On number 2, we're multiplying two negatives together. I know when I multiply two negatives, my answer is going to be positive. Let's look for things that reduce first. I'm noticing a 7 in the bottom and a 7 on the top. I can divide both of those by 7. Negative 7 divided by 7 is negative 1. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Now multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. Negative 3 times negative 1 is 3. 1 times 8 is 8. In this third problem, we'll multiply three fractions together. Before we multiply, we can reduce any top with any bottom. Like I see a 4 and a 6. I'm going to divide by 2 and divide by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Here's an 11 and a 33. I can divide by 11 and divide by 11. If I'm really on the ball, I will notice a 2 here and a 20 here. I'll divide by 2 and divide by 2. Now multiply the tops. 1 times 1 times 1. Bottoms are 3 times 10 is 30 times 3 is 90. We'll conclude today's work by adding fractions. When you add fractions, you must have a common denominator. Look at number 1. I can't add these yet because 8 and 2 do not match. I don't have a common denominator. Let's get that common denominator. The first trick we know to find a common denominator is see if the smaller number divides evenly into the big number. If it does, then the big number is a good common denominator. Now we'll get the numerators. What do you multiply times 8 to get 8 is 1. Then we'll multiply the top by 1. What do you multiply times 2 to get 8 is 4. Then we'll multiply the top by 4. Now keep the common denominator. Add up the numerators. 3 plus 4 is 7. 7/8 is what we like for a final answer. When you do your homework, write the problem down, rewrite it with common denominators, and then circle your final answer. For number 2, subtraction, we also need a common denominator. We check. Does the small number divide evenly into the big number? It does not. So to get a common denominator, another trick is to multiply the two denominators together. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 will make a good common denominator. To get the numerators, what do you multiply times 5 to get 15? Is 3. So we'll multiply the top by 3. 2 times 3 is 6. What do you multiply times 3 to get 15? Is 5. Let's multiply the top by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Now keep the common denominator of 15. And 6 minus 5 is 1/15. Great. Again, when you work these on for your assignment, you should write the problem down, rewrite it with common denominators, and then show me your final answer. Three fractions, tricky. We'll have to find one common denominator for all three fractions. Let's check to see if the small ones divide into the big one. Does 5 divide into 15? Yes. Does 3 divide into 15? Yes. If the small denominators divide into the biggest denominator, then the biggest denominator makes a good common denominator. Now let's get the numerators. What do you multiply times 15 to get 15? Is 1. We'll multiply the top by 1. What do you multiply times 5 to get 15? Is 3. We'll multiply the top by 3. What do you multiply times 3 to get 15? Is 5. We'll multiply the top by 5. Now keep the common denominator. And negative 1 plus 6 is 5, minus 5 is 0. You could leave your answer like that, or we can know that 0 divided by any number is just 0. Got it.